Morning.
So we have our little dream team back together. So again, I think most of you who know me, I do a lot of lighting services. I talk about lighteners a lot. So it would only seem fitting that today I'm here to talk to you about all of the lighteners within the range, and I'm going to give you guys a quick demonstration on B. What I actually did yesterday is I went ahead and put some face framing highlights in her hair, just to save time because B has a lot of hair. But I also just have it on the mannequin here so I can talk you guys through that. And also working with a few different lighteners that I've used one lightener for the front hairline. I'm going to use two different lighteners through the back so you guys can see that as well. Now with B's hair, just to give you a bit of background, she used to be, if you ever want to see, if you look at my Instagram page, there's B's on there about 10 times. I've been doing B's hair for about 5 years. She's had every single colour imaginable, blue, green, pink, peach, blonde, everything. So what actually happened here was B's hair was growing out throughout the pandemic, and I hadn't seen her for about 1.5 years, right, B? Yep. So I'm just going to spin her around, but we actually have a little bit of blonde on the ends. And what I went ahead and did last time I saw her in April is I actually just did a bit of a zone tone. But what you can see is I've still got a little bit of blonde here that's hanging on. That was a full blonde look that we did from a full head of foils. So what I'm planning to do is I'm just going to go ahead and paint some really subtle pieces within this range here so that I can start to even that out and make it more of like a cohesive colour. So just creating more dimension. I don't want to do a lot because I actually like this sort of chocolate brown that we're working with, but I just want to do enough just to add a few different light pieces throughout. And then on her hairline, I actually went and strategically placed some pieces. So what I'm going to talk about today, as well as when I talk about the placement, is how I placed it based on her actual face shape and why I place certain pieces where they are. I think right now there's a lot of face frames that are quite bold. They're quite large, kind of like 1990s style face frames, which are great, but they're not necessarily for anyone or everyone. And I think that sometimes we need to really think about our client's haircut, we need to think about their face shape as well, and we need to think about maintenance. So I wanted to create a low maintenance look that actually accentuated B's face shape as well, but also gave that lightness to the hair. So let's talk a little bit about our lightness that we have within the range. And so if you guys can hear a bit about, I'm not sure what that is. It's like the air pressure of water pressure. So hopefully the power wash is not too distracting, but if you need me to talk up, I can talk up even a little bit louder, you can tell me.
I know you're great. We have a couple of questions actually, but I think you're going to hit with the lighteners. Everyone is saying hi, Joe.
Hi guys. So yeah, we have 6 different lighteners within the KM range, and I would say that I use all different lighteners for all different reasons. So there's a few things that I always consider when picking a lighter. You want to consider your texture, you want to consider your porosity as well. You also want to consider things like, maybe the density of the hair, but you want to consider the integrity of the hair and what you're actually trying to achieve. So I'm always picking a lighter that's going to give me what I'm trying to achieve, and I don't necessarily need, for example, if I'm only trying to shift a few levels, then I'm not going to actually need something like Ultimate Lightener. I might need something like a cream lightener ammonia-free. So always considering that, because I know if I actually surveyed everyone out there, you could probably all tell me what your favourite lightener is, and you just like to go to that because you like the consistency or you like the colour of it, but sometimes it's really good to think about what you're actually trying to achieve. So what we have here, I'm going to show you these two here, is our cream lighteners. We have a cream lightener ammonia-free, and hopefully you guys can see that, and we have a cream lightener. Both of these are really great for global applications. What's really awesome about them is they have a really highly cosmetic feeling. So they're going to have murumuru butter, inchi oil, corn proteins, and they have beeswax and candelia wax, which is going to help to really nourish the hair while it's lifting. I like them because there's minimal swelling, so when I'm doing a global application of lightener, it doesn't swell and bleed onto the other hair. It also feels really pleasant for the client as well. So I like to use these. My hero time is global applications, but I love to use them when I'm painting and using some kind of saran wrap or some kind of balayage wrap, or I like to use them for foiling as well. And they can really work with coarse and curly textures. Coarse textures because it needs a bit more of that moisture to really adhere it to the foil. I find with curly textures as well, it wants to spring up and out of the foil, so the actual cream lightener can be really good to actually help hold that into the foil and actually give it that moisture. So that's when I'm using my cream lighteners. The one that you guys probably see me use the most is Freestyle Lightener, which I love because it's a clay-based lightener and I love to paint. Today I'm going to use that, but I'm also going to paint with Ultimate Lightener. So when using our Freestyle Lightener, this is going to be awesome for any type of freehand work that you're trying to achieve.
Question with that one, Joe. So that was one of the things that people asked was they wanted to know the container. Do you want to maybe explain why is in that container?
Yeah. This is, so if you haven't seen this container, Freestyle Lightener always came in a bag. And, you know, which is really great and it's somewhat eco-friendly. But I think that, you know, over time it's like people like to have a tub because then they know it's sealed and then it's not spilling, and people, you know, we've all been in the salon, we've all got those people, and I'm probably that person who maybe doesn't put the bag up tight and then there's lightener all over the place. So that's why we came out with a nice tub, and it's got that beautiful green colour so you can differentiate between all of the different liners. So you'll now see that, you know, ordering that from your distributors. We then have our Ultimate Lightener, which we'll talk about next. So I'm going to use Ultimate Lightener today. Ultimate Lightener is your up to 9 levels of lift. I would say, again, if I asked everyone, this is probably their new favourite lightener because it's our newest lightener to the team. It has a beautiful, like a light blue colour to it. But what's great about it is it's going to help you to lift up to 9 levels, which is why B is my perfect model for that. But it's also going to have that bond protection in there. So it's going to really help to protect the hair while you're lifting. And you can leave this for up to an hour and a half, which is what's so great because you can actually, instead of having to do, say, B's hair, for example, and Nick's been with me with this, where I've had to lighten the hair, I've had to rinse it, and then I've had to re-lighten the hair. With Ultimate Lightener now, I can just do it in one step and keep it going for an hour and a half, which is why it's so great. And then we have as well, don't want to forget our old favourites, our originals. We have our powder lightener and our powder lightener ammonia-free. So, you know, powder lightener again is going to be great for coarser textures because it has that blue tone to it. But also is really great if you just prefer a powder lightener. Fantastic for colour corrections and lifting through any artificial pigment because it's going to help you control that warmth while you lift. Whereas our ammonia-free powder lightener, if I could actually get you guys, if you could smell through a Facebook Live, this one smells really great. That's the reason I love to use this. So if anyone's sensitive to lightener, this has a really nice berry scent. So it's really good for people who maybe have fine textures or lighter depths and you're not having to lift them as high. Using something like our powder lightener ammonia free because it's going to have that pleasant scent but also has aloe so it's nice and soothing. So all of those lighteners, what you're going to consider is like really thinking about texture. For example, when I'm talking about texture, I'm talking about 5, medium and coarse. So, you know, if we're talking about B's hair, how we're determining texture, and this is one thing that I will say, you know, starting hairdressing, it was actually one of the things that I found a little bit more difficult is to figure out what is someone's texture. So what you want to do is you want to, there's no way you can even see that hair strand. You want to grab an individual hair strand and you want to actually feel it in your hands. Now B's hair, I can tell you already, like it's quite, that one hair strand feels really thick in my fingers. So I know that it's going to be more of a coarse texture. Now coarse textures are going to be a little bit harder to lighten. When I feel porosity, the porosity is actually really good, so I'm checking for the moisture in the hair. So porosity is the hair's ability to absorb moisture. So when I check up here and I'm just moving my fingers, she actually has good porosity, but you can imagine when I'm coming down here and I'm working my fingers, you can see how much, you might not be able to see there, but it's going to have a higher porosity. So what that means is that higher porosity, this hair here, is going to lift a lot faster than this hair that's going to have normal porosity. Plus it's already light. So what I need to remember when working with someone who's got coarse texture is I might need to use a lightener that's going to give me more strength. And then when I'm working with someone who's got finer textures, I might need to use a lightener that's going to give me less strength. And then I need to consider, with porous hair, maybe I don't apply to the ends right away, maybe it's something that I do later to make sure that I'm not over-developing or over-processing those ends. So those are my first considerations. Then I'm thinking about how many levels of lift I want. So because B's got coarser texture and it's going to take a little bit longer to lift, I'm actually going to work with Ultimate Lightener today painting so you guys can see that. I'm also going to alternate with Freestyle so you can see the difference. But ultimate lightener because I want to get as much lift as possible, and that up to 9 is no longer going to be up to 9 because she has coarse texture, so I'm probably going to see a little bit less lift with that. Whereas someone who had finer textured hair, I'd probably be going for something like my cream lightener ammonia free or freestyle lightener as well would be a great option. So thinking about that always when you're selecting your lightener. The other key things, your lighteners, always think about the lightener as having the power. So the lightener has the power of the lift. So you choose your lightener based on the lift that you're trying to achieve, and you choose your cream activator that you're going to mix it with based on the speed at which you want to get there. So cream activators are going to be what's going to activate that lightener and give you the speed. So 10 volume and 40 volume technically would give you the same amount of lift. It's just 10 volume would be like me driving to New York, and 40 volume would be like me flying to New York, right? So how quickly do I want to get there? And that's really important when picking the lightener, because if you know it's going to be a process where it's going to take you 45 minutes to get the lightener in, you want to sew a cream activator. You don't want to pick 40 volt because it's going to go too quickly and you're going to blast the hair. So always think about integrity of the hair and your actual application. So mixing, always mix 1 to 2. So we're going to mix 1 part lightener and 2 parts our activator. And the wonderful Nick has actually gone ahead and given me 2 bowls of lightener that I'm going to work on today.
It's teamwork. It's all about the teamwork, Joe. You're getting a lot of hellos and highs from Vegas, from the UAE, Brazil, Belgium, all across the US.
So the other thing, so I'm just going to explain what I did at the front, and then I'm actually going to ask Nick, my kind friend, to give me some gloves, because I realised that I didn't put gloves on there this morning. So at the front here, what you can see is I actually went and did this yesterday, mostly because B has really dense hair. You know, the density of her hair is so impressive, and especially her hairline. You know, she has more normal texture at the hairline, but you can see how thick her hairline is. So she's not, you know, so I know that I'm going to have to, you know, work a little bit harder, and for me, I'm like, in an hour, am I going to be able to paint her whole head and do her hairline? Probably not, while I'm talking. So, with this here, what you can see is I did a placement where I really wanted to work with B's face shape. So B has a round face shape. So when working with a round face shape, what's really great is if you can add a bit more lightness towards the top, but keep a bit more richness and depth towards the bottom. What that does is it really helps to sort of open up the shape up here, so giving more of the appearance of opening up the shape, but then sort of going longer towards the end. So that's making that round shape appear slightly more oval. So that's what I'm doing, that's why I placed the colour where I did. So you can see all the lightness is through here, and then I just sort of dropped it off and didn't do as much lightness towards the end, because what my aim is going to be is to keep as much richness down here so that I can really work with her face shape. I also did this where it's quite soft and subtle because it's low maintenance. B lives in California, I live in New York, probably going to see her for another 6 months, so I need it to last. So that's the purpose of that as well, and she is that low, you know, perfect low maintenance hair color girl for me. Now when it comes to wondering about your face shape and where to place your face foam in your lightener, I always think of, you know, dark colors are going to make that area look smaller. So the deeper the hair, it's going to make it look smaller. The lighter, it's going to open up the space. So if you had someone, for example, you know, with more, let's say, more of like a heart-shaped, you might want to do more of a shadowed new growth through here, and you maybe want to have more lightness towards the end to elongate. So always thinking about face shape, not just for your haircut, but also think about it for your colour as well, and design it so it's really going to accentuate what your client's working with. So that's what we did with the face frame. I'm going to show you guys on here, like really simply. What I did is I'm just going to lift that up here. Is I just did 2 foils back to back on the hairline with baby lights. I did another piece through here where I did actually a bit of padding, and then I painted the mid-lengths to ends, and I actually left all of this section because I wanted to create a little bit more depth in here. And then I did 1 more baby light towards the back, and then repeated the same on the other side, but through the front here, I did 2 baby lights and then a padded slice, 2 baby lights and then a padded slice, and then I actually went ahead and tipped out those ends, and you can see how much padding I've put in here because I just wanted to really accentuate those ends. So where you can see that on B is right here at her cheekbones. That's where most of the actual tip out was, so that I can really sort of hone in and focus on that one particular spot. So again, super easy. This took me about maybe 15 minutes yesterday to put that in. So it doesn't always have to be, I think, think about what you're trying to do. It doesn't always have to be, I'm going to do baby lights all through here and I'm going to do a big chunky hairline. Really think about what your client actually wants and actually design it for your client, which is going to really sort of give them that like personalized experience. So really simple, again, placement designed for working with more of a round face shape. I'm going to put her away. Nick, look, you brought the gloves over without me even seeing.
No, that's what I'm here for, Joe. Question.
Yes.
When you're mentioning padding, what do you mean by that? What do you refer
I mean
to?
teasing. Some reason I don't like it. You could say backcombing. Teasing and backcombing sounds, it's just my brain, it sounds a little, it's a normal word you would use, but it sounds like I'm doing something harsh. So I just like padding, but you can call it whatever you like, right? I think that's the key, whatever works for you. But I just like the nice soft sound of padding. So I'm actually going to section off B's hair at the front, so I'm just going to pull her to the side here. And I'm going to just show you guys, actually let's show you the back so that you guys can see what I'm working with here. So you guys can see here I've got a bit of lightness, and this is all residue from like, or leftover I should say, not residue, that's a weird word to use.
Talking about choosing your words, Joe.
I know, so this is all like leftover from previous highlights, but also from the zone tone, I left these out. I did tone these with a new shade. Actually, I'm not going to talk too much about it because Miss Kate Reed is going to talk about it next week. But I did tone with one of our newest shades, which is a chocolate ash, but Kate will tell you more about that next Monday. So that you can see it's got that sort of coolness and that chocolate to it. So if I lift up B's hair though, under here, you can see that it's almost completely dark. There's really just a little bit of lightness towards the end. There's a little bit of lightness around the sides here as well. So what I'm going to focus on, as I said, I want to kind of start blending that together. I'm going to focus on taking some really large sections underneath. And I'm just going to go ahead, I'm actually going to paint them with Freestyle Lightener. And then towards the top here, within the, above the occipital bone, towards the top of the head, I'm actually going to take some sort of micro balayage or some little pieces, and I'm actually just going to paint pieces into the hair to give it really sort of soft dimension, so that you're going to start seeing a bit of a transition between here and here, rather than it looking sort of dark and then light, which is what I'm aiming to do. So what I'll do first, because I already did the front of B's hair, which is great. Wouldn't you like it if people came in and they already had the front of their hair did?
I think, Joe, you're bringing a good point for a lot of clients when they are looking at Insta pictures. The fact that you mentioned that B's hair was previously lightened and you're working with what she had before.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times it's explaining to the client that, what you're seeing is it's a buildup of having previous color in their hair. Because a lot of times they come into the salon and they have no color and they're expecting B's look.
Yeah, exactly. And B's was a process, and Nick has been, and when I say I've been doing B's hair, Nick has been there every step of the way. We work as a team because we had to work as a team. I think, one colour when we first took B Light, I think maybe took us about 8 hours to get through B's hair. And I love working on B's hair because I love how thick it is. But over time we progressed, we got lighter and lighter and lighter. And then, we still kept her hair condition really good because we did it gradually. But then we were able to, all right, we're really light. So let's now, as a journey, let's start playing with pastels. So we pretty much played with every pastel we could. And then after the pastels, we're like, okay, let's go back more natural. So we're always thinking, I feel like with a client, I'm always thinking, all right, where am I trying to go, and sort of predicting maybe my next move, but also I like to always take people there very gradually. I think it's really important for their integrity of their hair, and it's kind of fun. So if you do want to check out either Nick or I's Instagram, you'll see B. I should actually do a little post of all the B's hair colours.
It's called a hair journey. We're taking clients and being...
So what I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to work with Freestyle Lightener at the back. I'm actually just going to paint some lightness through here. I want the depth because remembering I'm working with her shape and even with this haircut, I actually don't want to put too much lightness underneath here. I want to keep a lot of that depth through here so it contrasts with the light. If B told me that she wears her hair up all the time and she really wants to see lightness underneath, of course I would focus on that. But you know, when I'm trying to do this, I'm always thinking about this is what I want to achieve. I don't want to necessarily see that light piece at the front because I want to keep that depth and richness. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab a section. I'm going to leave that hair out, push that out of the way. Now this looks like a really giant section, but I'm actually just going to surface paint. So it's going to seem giant, but it's actually going to be really soft.
When you refer to surface paint, Joe, are you meaning more just kind of in the outer layers of the hair, not going too solid?
Yeah, exactly. Let me just grab a whisk. Sorry guys, this is why I have everything in rotation. There we go. Oh, this is a bit weird. Okay. Sorry, you've got my battery there. There was something nice and weird that came out in my
It's another day in the salon, Joe.
Yeah, that was a surprise. So there we go. So I'm just going to paint a little bit on my board. So surface painting, I'm literally just painting the surface. So I'm just sweeping. So traditionally how you would do a balayage. So I do a lot of surface painting, but if B wanted something that was more contrasting, then of course I might do surface painting and then I might actually really saturate the ends or whatever I'm trying to do. So pick your technique based on what you actually want to achieve. I've learned over time, so how many years I've been hairdressing. I always everything I look at and I look back is always natural lived-in hair color. And you know, I think at some points I used to beat myself up about, you know, I need to do something different or I need to be, you know, more diverse. But that's what I like to do, and that's my clientele. So I think that's completely fine. You don't have to, I always say you don't have to be the expert at everything. If you really enjoy something, become the expert at that. So I'm just going to take the slant. I'm actually not going to, I'm going to leave this piece here. So I'm just going to take the slant over. I'm actually going to work on B's chair in a second because you can see I've got the worst posture in the world here.
You just see your hands, Joe, so you're good.
Okay, good.
Would you?
So I have amazing posture. It's so good. You should definitely do posture like this.
Would you recommend if someone had darker hair than B's and they wanted to be lighter and potentially brighter, would you recommend this placement be done in foils?
Yes. 100%. I love to paint, so I always am going to try to paint if I can. But if B wanted high contrast, we haven't painted B's hair for probably 4 years, I don't think, because we always wanted more contrast. So we foiled it. So always, think about that. But what you can do as well, I'm just going to actually work that in there a little bit. You can actually go ahead and use, I'll show you I'm going to use Ultimate Lightener towards the top, so just so you can see. Because you could also pick a higher lightener and then use a balayage film to actually work with to help you create that insulation, that heat by still painting.
Even though you're surf painting, I see that you have even and clean saturation. You get to see the white of the lightener. Do you recommend that as a tip?
I do. We all know that expression, right? Well, I hope we do. If it's not white, it's not light.
Okay.
Nick's what expression are you talking about?
You learn something new every day. That's why we're here today.
That's very true. You know, if it's not going to have, if you can't see the whiteness of the lightener, then it's not going to be lifting enough. So surface painting, don't be scared, to keep actually going on top of it. The key is when I surface paint, nope, I'm coming undone, guys. There we go. Always wear an apron. If you're Jadana Erie, you should definitely always wear an apron.
A whole suit.
Oh yeah, I should just be in a hazmat suit. And if you work next to me, maybe you need a hazmat suit as well.
You're getting a lot of highs and hellos from all over the place.
Hi everyone. So here I just want to point out something. something. So you guys can see, hopefully you can see that lighter piece here. Even though you may have a systematic pattern, if you see something and you see this is lighter, don't necessarily think, oh, I've got to pick up that piece to make sure that this piece flows with the other side, because if I went ahead and picked up too much of that lightened hair, I'm going to create a really light piece through here, and it's not what I'm looking to achieve. So just always consider what's in front of you. Don't think, oh, I have this pattern and I have to do this pattern. I am like the queen of random. I don't think anything should necessarily match, because I think naturally in life things don't match. So if you have someone's natural hair and it's too perfect, I think it looks too perfect and contrived. But some people love that. For me, I love looking a little bit random, and there might be a light piece here or a light piece there. So don't feel that you have to follow a system all the time. Again here, just keeping really good tension. So B's hair, like you can see B's head moving. That's how much tension I have. Most clients will fight against you, which is actually good. So they're holding that tension with you.
Natalie says this is one of her favorite lighteners, and they want to just reconfirm this is Freestyle Lightener.
This is Freestyle, yeah. I'm going to use Freestyle towards the lower region of B's hair, and then I'm going to use Ultimate Lightener towards the top, which I might actually need another bowl of that mix. It might have been sitting there, which is my bad, Nick. The other key thing, if your lightener's been sitting here, you know, and you can tell my Freestyle, I mixed it before I started talking. It's a little bit marshmallowy, which is fine, it's on the edge here. But if the lightener has been sitting there for more than like 20 to 30 minutes, I would always change it. Always just make sure you change that out.
Why would you recommend to always change it?
Just because you like to. Because you don't want it to lose strength. And you don't want to lose the consistency. The thing is, lightener over time, if say Freestyle Lightener has a development time of 45 minutes, the longer it sits in the bowl, the less strength it has. You want to keep strong lightener consistently throughout, so you get the lift that you're looking for and the time that you want to achieve it. So that's why it's really important to always have fresh lightener. If you don't have a wonderful friend like Nick, what you can do is you can just mix or measure out multiple bowls and then whisk them as you go. Let me just pull this here. I'm just going to slightly saturate this end here. And if you like to use the board, you can use the board. You can see I like to use it as a palette. That's whatever your preference is, but I love painting onto the hair. Some people like to use the board and paint directly onto the board, whatever floats your boat. And then just gently let that hang down. I'm just going to look in there and make sure that all of that line is super smooth. And I'm just going to wipe my hands down. I always keep a towel hanging from the edge of my trolley. The other thing I feel like is keep it nice and clean. So hang it from the side so that you can just wipe your hands rather than like scrunching it up and throwing it onto the tray, which is not going to be good because you're going to get messier and messier and messier. Alright, so I'm going to continue on this side. You can see I'm getting into some lightened areas. I'm actually going to just cut across here into this section. And I'm going to take a horizontal section and I'm actually going to just cover a slant over here. And all of this top area is going to be where I'm going to use the Ultimate Lightener. And you can see I've got a bit more lightness coming in. I'm actually going to do a V right here. And let me just, sorry, this is like a lot of my process. I don't know about you guys, but I need to look at it. I always say let the hair speak to you. I'm looking at it to see where it's going to fall. So how is that going to sit? So I'm like, okay, so I don't want to put probably too much lightener on this edge. I'm just going to do a V that's kind of through here so that I still have that depth sitting in here, but I have a bit of lightness coming across. And I've got, you can see how much hair I'm leaving out. So, you know, quite often I think, and I always am honest, like when I started painting, I did a lot of the times I would actually overpaint because I was so used to being a person who started foiling back in the 90s, so I put so many foils in. So I think it was one of those a habit, but I had to sort of break that because I realized that the negative space is actually what you need to create the dimension that you're looking for. If you overpaint, you end up just all one color.
Teddy saying, what a true artist you look like there.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Teddy. I love Teddy. She's always here for me. Thanks, Teddy.
Paz says hi.
Hi, Paz. So I'm just going to keep painting. The other key thing, if you're going to surface paint here, just keep rolling your brush. So just keep that circular motion. And then I'm just going to keep layering. You can see that tension. If I've got a layer, I just need to hold that a little bit tighter. If you make it like a little, I always load towards the mid and then start working towards the top. If you make a little like mistake where you put lightener somewhere, just blend it in and don't stress about it. Don't try to fix it for so long that you're going to end up probably making it more of a mess. Just blend it in and make sure it looks smooth and then just keep going. Yeah. And what you can do as well if you want, so those ends, I'm just going to flip them on. Like I did before, I can actually just go ahead and paint those ends. I'm just gently holding that onto the board. And then I'm just going to, I like to use my fingers.
We're having a whole new group of people coming in. Do you mind just going back to the lighteners that you're going to be using today?
Yeah, so I'm using Freestyle Lightener and Ultimate Lightener. Paint that. Oh, there we go. And then I always just, again, just check. Yep, we're good. Don't let that flip. Because I'll just show you there. You always want to just check underneath and make sure that's really smooth. And I only just saturate at the very, very end there. If your brush is getting a bit dirty, like this one, you can either clean it off, but that'll keep you neat, but also you could just grab a new brush. So, when aprons are handy, just grab another one. And I'm just going to come and do one more section with Freestyle.
Joe, what is the degree that you're looking for of level to kind of leave B with once you're done lifting?
As in, how low am I trying to lift it?
Correct.
Yeah, probably only like maybe, you can see here, you know, B's naturally like a depth of a 3. You know, in some areas of the back here, she's even more of a 2. So you can see here, I'm looking for more of like maybe a depth of a 7. So I'm only really trying to achieve like 4 to 5 levels of lift. Now when I'm marrying this piece on here, again, I want to keep a lot of that depth. I've got a bit of that lightness through here, which is good. So I'm just going to actually pull this piece here. Again, you guys can probably see it's like a lighter piece right through there, so I'm going to actually leave that alone. I'm also not going to necessarily go right to this point because then those two will match together. And I don't want them to, but you could, if you do want them to, go for it.
Victoria has a question regarding the cream activator that you use for the Freestyle Lightener.
Okay, I'm actually just using 20 volume. The reason I'm using 20 is because I know it's going to be on here a while. And I'm not looking for a lot of lift. If I needed a lot of lift, I would definitely be using 30 and 40 because B's hair's got that coarser texture. But I also, you know, when you see the ends are sort of sitting at more of a 7 and 8, I don't even mind if these mid areas only lift to a depth of even like a 5 or a 6. I'm just looking for a beautiful transition so that I can blend in so I don't have such a light dark contrast. Okay, so this side I'm doing, you can see I'm moving away there, but I'm doing a bit more of a W. Might just need, I don't know if that lightener's a little.
It's looking nice and smooth.
I don't know, maybe I think this will be my last freestyle anyway, Nick. It's a little bit mushy. So the lightener, I'll mix some for you in a minute and I'll show you. It should be like a really clay consistency. So when when you actually hold it up, you should be able to hold it up and it should be able to stay on the brush. So the benefit to that freestyle lightener is that it's going to have a really thick, pliable consistency, which means it's going to stay where you put it, and you don't need to use separators. So that's the benefit. That falls, I'm just going to grab that here. Just going to gently paint there. Okay, you can see it looks like I'm holding, I've got a lot of lightener underneath there, but really it's just touching the board. I'm just smoothing that out. And then I'm just going to look underneath here. So you guys can see, again, I'm just touching those ends. So if I need to, I'm just going to use my hands and just paint that down to make sure it's smooth. Okay, so I'm going to switch out my lightener. And I'm going to switch this out too.
And that is a new freestyle lightener.
What's that?
That's new freestyle lightener if you need it.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, I think so. Just gonna clean that off. And I'm actually just gonna use my towel. I'm gonna wipe my board off just because I'm switching lighteners. If you want to, you can have two boards. If you're switching out lighteners, but I'm definitely just going to wipe that one clean. I'm going to fold that towel, keep that nice and neat. Pop that down here. Okay, so same thing, you want to use your, grab these here. You want to use a whisk as a paddle. I might actually, do you have a new ultimate lightener there?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, thanks Nick. Nick's being my man over here. So again, like if the lightener's been sitting there a little bit, it's a little bit mushy. So it's not the most ideal to paint with. So you want it to be really nice and thick. And that's the 1 to 2 consistency. Okay, so I'm just going to pile a little bit on there. Now it's going to work very different to the clay. You can see Ultimate Lightener, it's going to have a much different consistency here. So you have to be more careful. Freestyle Lightener is extremely forgiving, whereas something like Ultimate Lightener is not going to be so forgiving. Now I have this area here, and the reason I switched up to Ultimate Lightener is, again, this hair is going to be sitting on here longer, so I don't need to necessarily lift it as long. And Ultimate Lightening here, again, working with B Space Shape, I want to create a bit of more lightness, because you can see we've got a bit more lightness working towards here as well.
We have a great question for you coming from Becky Joe. What advice do you have for a stylist that is more comfortable or used to utilizing foil work or very tidy foil work and is a bit scared of utilizing freehand work?
My advice, I've come from that world. I was, I started hairdressing early on in '98, and foiling was just coming in then, so I did a lot of foiling. I would just say, you just have to practice and try it, but also it's not the answer to everything. I love painting because I like to be able to see where the hair is going to sit, so I like to be able to see where I'm placing the colour. But it's not always the answer like someone brought up before. If B wanted high contrast, I would definitely be foiling. So I think if you're wanting to try painting, I would just start maybe small. So if B had, for example, a global colour, what I would do is I'd actually go, okay, I'm going to recommend to my client, maybe I'll do some lightened pieces. So while the global colour's on, maybe I go ahead and I'm going to paint a few lighter pieces around her hairline to really accentuate her haircut. So that's my first practice of actually painting. So I might be like, all right, this is how I'm going to start. Then next time I'm like, all right, I'm going to paint a few more pieces. So I would say start small. Start with things that you can just add on a service, which is add on a bit of a lightening service to your existing client, and then build up from there until you get to a full head. But I have a lot of people that, there's probably a lot of people when I first started painting that were definitely my models, who I appreciate. So I think it's always good to just practice. And once you like figure out what it's going to look like, then it makes your life a little bit easier, or you feel more confident.
Will you use Ultimate Lightener in a different way when you're applying it? Will you treat it differently than Freestyle Lightener?
Yes, I'm very careful. So you can probably see I'm not as like when I'm painting here. I'm just really making sure that I'm just painting on this surface here, but I'm just gently applying the lightener. It's not going to give you, it's not going to have the same protection as Freestyle Lightener, but the benefit to using Ultimate Lightener is that you're going to get more lift. And the reason you'll get more lift, obviously, it's going to be that 9 levels, but I'm also going to use Saran Wrap. So I'm actually going to leave those ends out. They don't need to be touched because they're as light as I want them. And then I'm just going to make a bit of a shape up here. More of like somewhat of a slanted V, because I just want to add a little bit of lightness through there. Make sure it's very smooth, and then just be really gentle and let it hang. Once it's hanging, I'm going to get my film. Hold on one sec. For some reason this film likes to go from the other side, not this side. Okay, so then I'm just going to grab a little bit of my film here. So this is from our film that's like it doesn't have the stickiness to it, so it's not like food saran wrap, it's like balayage wrap. And I'm just going to place that in here. And what that's going to do is it's just going to protect, but it's also going to help with adding a little bit of warmth in here as well. Alright, and then I'm just going to go, I'm just working on slight diagonals, so almost from the center here, I'm just working on a bit of a pie shape. You could also just do horizontal and paint slants. So I'm leaving all that depth in here, and I'm going to paint so that this one falls over here. So the reason I'm taking a bit more vertical is to keep the section really natural looking. Whenever you paint or even do a foil on a diagonal, you're going to get more of a natural effect. So I'm just going to go in again. So I'm going to start my slant, so I'm going to be slightly higher up here. And then I'm going to work lower towards the face. Just going to keep painting.
Christina has the question regarding the color trays that you are using.
Oh, maybe Nick can answer that one.
Okay, you could actually purchase them from World Market. That's what we've got ours from.
Yeah, they're good. They're good because they're multiple layers. So you can probably see, my trolley's probably out of view now, but you can see how much stuff I've got in the lower layers to help me stay organised. Alright, and again, I'm not going to paint those ends because they're light enough. I'm just going to let that fall very gently. So what you guys should be able to see is where that shape's forming, so that colour's going to fall over here, so I'm leaving all that depth in between. So I'm just going to get a bit more film.
Do you mind just maybe turning the slightly towards the camera, like the area that you just finished painting, so people can actually see the placement of how it looks? Perfect.
Beautiful. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a technical difficulty with this film cutter this morning. It's a brand new one, and for some reason it's just bunching and not cutting, so. Okay. Actually, I might just have to switch to foil. One second, sorry. I'm just going to switch it up to
John.
foil, guys, just because I want you guys to see me fumbling trying to. Place that there. Trying to get this film to work.
Right here.
That's that one.
Yes, you pull it and just hit it.
Ah, there we go. Nick saving the day.
The struggle is real, Joe.
There we go. And I'm not too concerned about those ends. I'm I'm more concerned about everything piling up here, and those ends are already lighter, so I'm not as concerned about adding the heat, just in case you're wondering why I'm doing that. Probably got 2 more pieces in me here. And what I might do, just to add a little bit of lightness towards the top, I might actually start going on the other angle. So I'm just going to spin her, I'm going to turn around here. And you can see again, I've already got a bit of lightness, so I'm actually not going to paint a lot on those ends. How are we going for time here?
We are 10 minutes to 10. 10 to 10.
My body position again. This is an awkward side for me to be on.
We get to see your lovely hands and your face.
I know, but I'm just saying, if I look a little awkward, it's because I can't, I wouldn't normally paint like this. I would paint in front of the section, but just so you guys can see what I'm doing. So excuse my awkwardness.
So this is an ideal and perfect question that I think every hairdresser has, either problems with or troubles dealing with. How much would you price a service like this if you had to do it? Or recommend how much you would price it?
Still be. There you go. I think it depends on where you live completely. I think, you know, each country, each state is going to be different. I think the best way to think about it is, for me, is how much time is it going to take me, how much product am I going to use, and how much am I trying to make per hour. So for example, if you're trying to make, you know, $100 per hour, then maybe you need to think about how long it's going to take you to do that service and how much product your product cost is going to be. Product cost, time, but also maybe you work in New York where you pay $200 a day for rent, or you live in somewhere like Denver where you only pay $50 a day for rent. So I think there's like little factors like that. But I would always, you know, who's really great at this is Miss Janine Simmons, our Colour Master in New Zealand. But I would think about, from a business point of view, how much, what am I trying to achieve, or what do I need to make per hour, and what are my costs that are going to be involved, and that's how I would price out a service. So for me in New York, if this is going to take me, you know, a couple of probably, just to do the face foam and the painting, it's probably going to take me at least an hour. So I know it's going to take me an hour to do that. I'm probably not going to use too much product, but I'm definitely going to use my premium lightener, which is Ultimate Lightener. So for me, you know, New York prices are going to probably be a little bit higher. So if I say it, it might seem a bit exorbitant, but you'd probably be looking at, you know, that with a blow dry anywhere around like that 250 mark for me somewhere in New York, because I've got to cover my costs. If that helps. But as I said, each state is going to be slightly different.
I think anything that takes longer than a maintenance lightener, it's a good idea to actually look into hourly, what an hourly cost would be for you.
Yeah. And now you can probably see my hands. This is actually, I'm just going to move B again. Actually, B, can you use your feet? Yeah, thanks B. You can probably see on this side, I'm a little bit faster. I'm just going to speed up for us, but also everyone has a side that they're more confident in. And when I say confident, you're just more comfortable because you're right-handed, left-handed. Unless you're that person who's ambidextrous, so I'm very jealous. So I think one side's always going to be a little bit faster, so I tend to tackle my slower side first. And again, just leaving that lightener.
Leah said that she could watch you paint all day.
Oh.
Jessica has a question regarding the lighteners as a whole. So you mentioned that Ultimate Lightener has bond protection built into the product itself. What would you recommend for the other lighteners regarding bond building?
Yeah, I find that the other lighteners, like for example, cream lightener has marumara butter, inky oil, corn proteins, beeswax. So for me, I wouldn't add anything into cream lightener. I also feel that if I needed that bond protection, I would just use Ultimate Lightener or cream lightener if I felt like I needed to, you know, respect the integrity of the hair a little bit more. And I would just use treatments afterwards. I'm not a big, I don't honestly, for me, I don't put mostly because we have them, you know, within our lighteners. We actually have really good ingredients, and I don't feel that I need them. And if I'm going to actually take the hair, oh my god, it's stressing me. And if I'm going to take the hair into a state where I think it's going to, I'm going to need more protection, I tend to, or I'm going to need more protection, I tend not to take it there. I just always think about the integrity of the hair, if that helps. I know it's a roundabout answer. But bottom answer is I don't use them. I just choose my lightener based on the condition of the hair to make sure that I'm respecting the integrity of my client's hair. But if you like them, I always recommend, I like, you know, Bond, I think Bond Builders are really great products to use after lightening services as take-home treatments. Like, what do you guys use here, Nick?
I'm sorry, remind me the question again?
What Bond Builder, other Bond protector do you use here?
We use two types. We have either B3 Bond Builder,
Yeah.
like Brazilian Blowout, and then we have K18 as well.
Yeah, so like these are really good, you know, K18 is one of those ones I've actually tried here with Nick. As a treatment, it's a great treatment. So I think having that treatment service after a lighting service can be really great.
Is there a reason why you prefer to use the see-through dividers versus foil work?
Yeah, so I can see it.
Okay.
I'm like a really visual person. I need to see where the hair's falling. But again, if B wanted high contrast, I wouldn't paint, and I wouldn't actually use any of this either. I would just foil. All right. There we are, and this is going to be my last piece on this side. Just going to take a little corner here.
I think from just watching, and of course you mentioned earlier that you had finished B's hairline yesterday, but it was quite quick to go through the amount of hair that B has. So it's like really quick. You would think it's a really quick technique to use.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I want this to be as low maintenance as possible. So that's why I'm doing it. Let me just pull here. Okay. I'm actually going to switch it up on this side here. So yeah, it's super quick. Okay, so I'm just going to hold these hair super tight because I've actually got a light piece here, and I'm going to make sure I don't get that. Also, just make sure that the hair's really combed well, especially if you're working with a non-clay lightener. Right, there we go. So I'm just going to paint through here. I'm actually going to go the opposite side. So I'm slightly different on each side, so I'm creating dimension in different areas of the head. I actually changed angles from one side to the other.
This will prevent from you to having, you know, buildup of a lightener on one side and the other of the hair when you actually visually see where your last placement was.
Yeah.
To create more of that uneven look.
Absolutely. Actually, I'm gonna take that on both sides. So when you see me, like, you probably, you know, if someone's like, why did you do a B and then you just painted two sides here? It's based on if I see if there's like pockets of lightning within B's hair. So I'm just evening them out. So there's already existing lightning in the hair. Then I'm just gonna go make sure that I saturate. And again, I'm just gonna like slightly feather into those ends, but I'm going to leave those ends out at that form. Sorry, I keep walking across the camera to get the film. Place that here and let that fall. All right. So then all I have left is this top section. And what I'm going to do, so I've already got, you guys can see I've got a bit of lightness in here. So because I have a bit of lightness in here, I'm just going to actually do some really like micro pieces. Because I want to have the lightness on top, but I also don't want to over-lighten this hair. So. Actually, they're going to clean my brush. Really important, always keep a clean brush. kitty. And if you're messy by nature, like I always say, just have strategies to keep yourself nice and neat. It's okay if you're messy, but just make sure that you keep it clean or figure out how to keep yourself clean. Yeah, so you can see I've already got a bit of lightness through here. So all I'm going to do, and this is where you could actually switch to a foil if you wanted to. And you could do some foil work through the top, but I'm just going to paint.
Do you mind lowering your arm just a little bit? Maybe that ain't perfect.
This is just ignore my body position. This is definitely how I wouldn't paint. But I don't know any other. Otherwise, I won't be able to actually get there.
That's perfect.
You can always. I was going to say if you wanted to, Nick, you could I guess pick up this. I could pick up the stand, but I know you got to watch it. I could always hold it. Okay, so all I'm doing here is essentially just painting on like a bit of foil. Don't worry about timing either too, in the sense that you can see I'm taking a long time to paint this. It's really important of what I'm being very, very intentional. So don't rush it. If you rush it, then I feel like you'll end up with areas that you don't want painted, and you'll end up with a mess. And then you'll have to fix it. So what you thought was going to save you time will end up being more time consuming. Alright, and then guys can see that I'll just have Bea push her head back. So I'm just trying to create really sort of micro little pieces through here. Paint that on. Or hold that down. I'm not pushing too hard, I'm just laying that flat. And then I'm just going to take a few more pieces. Slightly herringbone my section. So herringbone meaning I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to place one here and then one over the top. Again, to be consistent with what I've done at the front. And you can see all of that lightness through here. So I'm literally going to focus on just creating something in the top here. I'm going to do this last section and I'll finish this up, and then what I'm going to do is just continue Bea's hair and let you guys go, unless you want to, you can stay with me if you like, but I know everyone's probably got a busy Monday.
And you will be posting the end result later today?
Yeah, I'm going to post I'll post in the comments for you guys to see. Okay, one more piece.
It's looking great, Joe.
Most awkward body position ever.
You know, awkward positions in real life look really good on camera, so.
Awesome. Alright, so let me just put this one in here. Again, laying that film down. Very gentle. So I'm going to just keep, what I'll do, I'm just going to obviously follow the same, oh sorry guys, The same consistent pattern here, where I'm going to do just another one here, and then I'm actually just going to do one really fine one at the top. I'm going to make sure that blends into the sides that I've already done. And then when I'm finished, I'll definitely post for you guys, but I just really wanted you to, I know I'm so used to painting with freestyle, but I just wanted to show you guys that you can actually paint with other lighteners. So painting with Ultimate Lightener and Cream Lightener are two of my favourites, as well as freestyle lightener. But you can, just think about, again, like the reason I'm using Ultimate Lightener is because B's hair is dark and it's coarse. So I'm using Ultimate Lightener because it's going to give me more lift. So always pick your lightener, not just because it's your favourite or you like the colour. Pick it on what you're trying to actually achieve and what kind of hair texture and porosity your client actually has. But if you have any questions about any of the lighteners, please feel free to reach out to me. You can either DM me. My Instagram is at Where's Jordana. Like Where's Wally, but Where's Jordana? And then also you could email me as well. So my email is just jgeary@kevinmurphy.com.au. And if you actually go on our website, you can see more information on the lighteners if you're new to Kevin Murphy and you want to check them out. Definitely follow House of Lang, my lovely friend here who's helping me. So at House of Lang, and we'll post some pictures on there as well. But thank you guys so much for being here, and I will definitely finish this up and post in the comments, what the final look is, and B's going to be my fabulous model for me so we can have a little photo shoot.